Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 4 of Campaign 4 of Critical Role. It might be a little longer today for a couple reasons. One, it was a 5-hour episode, so there's just more stuff in it. And two, people have asked me to give more of my opinions at the end, so I'm going to do that. So if it looks like it's longer, it might not actually be longer. It might have just been me continuing to talk after the episode's over. So let's get started. It's a cool night in Domakyar in a tavern in the Fray, the lowest neighborhood in the city. Fight, shouts, music, chaos all around. Potter's Field Tavern with a nameless gravestone on its sign. Belair has his hood up and he's trying to hide his face mask. With a package in his hands of a decent size, wrapped like a gift. He has a low chance of getting recognized here. He enters the tavern and there's a few people inside. Belair makes eye contact with the barkeep, who then nods in acknowledgement that he didn't see Belair. At the back there is a thick red door and it's behind a curtain. Between the door and the curtain stands a thin person. Belair says no evil, and the person pushes the door open, and an otherworldly smell comes from behind the door. Belair steps in. It's a hidden place of leisure in this tavern. Delvin, the owner, looks at Belair. The alcohol here is of a much higher quality than what was on the outside of the bar. Delvin calls Belair master and asks if he wants a drink. Belair says that it's been an odd week and something interesting will do well. Things are getting strange out there. There's a woman wearing purple robes. She's very beautiful, and there seems to be like a mosaic lantern in front of her face. She leans forward towards a mother and a daughter across from her at a table. Belair rolls perception and gets a 19. He can hear the woman say that the child's father, their soul, is in the underworld, and there is no afterlife for it. She says that druids or clerics would try to send the soul to the next life that only the Shapers knew. The woman in purple says that they want to send his soul to a brighter place. There are a few who can help, but there are some that can. It's just not cheap, but they are reliable. She then slides a contract across the table towards them. Blair hears someone call his name, and he turns and sees Ralphus and Calastro Markinad. They have a private booth here, the two tailors from the last episode. There is a young man draped over their laps in some sort of dreaming-like state. Calastro seems to suck something from the man, and he shudders a little bit from his ear, just to clear that up. Blair says that he's been meaning to meet with them as he asks how business is doing. The brothers say that it's booming and ask if he wants to join them. Blair says that he's waiting for someone and tells them that he needs a new suit similar to theirs, and they think that that would be a lovely idea. A hand suddenly touches Blair, and a voice says there's a room in the back that's ready for him. The hand belongs to Obris Dime. He has a shaved head and a chipped ear. He's a fence for higher class goods of, smuggled goods. Belair gets into the back room with Obris. Obris says the money is ready, and he didn't think that Belair worked with people like him. Belair says that he's worked with all sorts, and maybe one day Obris could afford to use more of Belair's services. Belair gives him a package and starts taking the money. Obris says this must be a joke and asks where it is. He says that he came for a treasure and he won't be leaving without one, and inflicts Belair's mask. Obris casts sleep on Belair, and Belair falls asleep. Obris pulls the mask off of Belair, and he sees his flesh pull at the mask a little bit before it lets go. His skin is dry and cracked, and there's chunks of skin missing to where you can see teeth underneath. His eye sockets are basically empty with 2 dried up eyeballs. Obris calls him a freak and says he won't have to kill him, he's basically dead, and looks into the mask himself and sees a rune of some sort on the inside. Sometime later, Belair wakes up and feels much better. There's a dead body in the room with him. Belair strips the body of its clothes. He summons a glass straight razor, and he removes the body's hair. He summons a glass cleaver and chops the body up and throws most of him in the fire, keeping only the hands and the head, and then takes the empty package and places them in it. He then changes into the clothes that he took off the body. Then he puts up his hood and starts to head home. Taliesin leaves the table, and then we have Matt, Ashley, Abria, and Alex join the table. Everyone is dressed like Alex Ward except for Alex because it's the Halloween episode. And in my opinion, Alex is dressed like Brennan, like how Brennan would normally dress. We start in the Davinos estate. Raymond has just been killed by Primus Taconis, and Octus's brother is standing across from him in the hallway, who said that it's time to open up Octus and place the stone where it belongs. It's time to roll initiative, and the battle map is sick as per usual. Julian gets a 22, Octus gets an 18, Taisha gets a 14, and Valus gets a 3. Julian is up. Primus looks at Julian Julius takes it all in quickly and then yells no, sprinting towards Primus. He steps over his father's body, but realizes that he'd have to step on him to make a successful attack, so his attack actually misses. Unfortunately, Primus dodges, and most of him seems to be in another realm. About 3/4 of him seems to be in another realm. Julian action surges and swings and hits for 7 damage, and then vexes Primus, so he has advantage on his next attack. He swings with his gauntlet in his offhand, but misses. Primus seems to be holding some sort of black candle, and he tells Julian that he bears no ill will toward his house. Octus sees the ghouls his family has summoned in the past. Ethrin says now, and one of them attacks Lady Aranessa, kicking her back, knocking her prone. It then moves behind Octus. The rest all then move to swarm him as well. Octus needs to make several athletics checks. He saves the first one but fails the second one, and he is now grappled. One ghoul then grabs Aranessa. Octus knows these ghouls are stronger than the normal ones. There seems to be some sort of spell on them. Octus is then thrown onto a table. One of the ghouls gets on the table and takes a garrote, which is like the wire choke thing that a lot of people use in movies, and then puts the wire across Octus's neck, and Octus takes 7 damage. He is being held down onto the table with this garrote. Octus is up. He points his hand towards Ethrin and casts Mind Spike. Brennan rolls in front of the table on a 9 or higher. He saves, and he rolls a 14, so Ethrin only takes 4 damage. Con save, Ethrin passes. Octus is now confused about everything that's going on. Ethrin looks at him and mouths, "Not yours." He then takes out a knife and steps into the room. Ethrin hits 2 times. One is a normal attack and one is a crit. Octus takes 15 damage from the first attack. He has 1 HP left. Ethrin then calls Octus a traitor and says he shouldn't, or that he should have welcomed the name alone as a gift. There's always been something wrong with him, meaning Octus. On the critical hit, he takes 28 damage, doubling Octus's health. The knife is carved up into Octus's body, opening him completely. The stone of the night song is put into his stomach and then up to where his heart would be. Ethrin grabs Octus's heart and then pulls it out. Octus goes cold, a wire wrapped around his neck. He just looks at his brother and thinks that he'll never keep his promise to meet up with Thimble. Pin falls apart in front of Valus. Taisha, who's also there, watches Pin fall apart. The wolf growls, and it's now her turn. They can hear Taisha's voice ask where Octus is, and Valus says upstairs. Taisha makes an investigation check to find Octus, and she rolls a 24. She can smell blood in the air, and she can hear movement on the balcony above, and she hears Lady Aranessa bite a ghoul. Taisha moves up as much as possible. She runs past Primus as she goes, and Primus takes a swing but misses her. Primus is now up. Primus vanishes in the shadow and then reappears in the center of the room next to the fountain and casts Circle of Death. Con saves from Taisha and Julian. Taisha 22, Julian 25. They both take 21 damage. Yes, that was the halved damage. They're both still standing. Primus says tonight Davernos and Royce their vassal houses, and the work that is to come requires concentration, so there can't be any distractions. Black smoke fills the room, killing merchants, attendants, diplomats. All of them drop dead that are in the range of this attack. The candle in Primus's hand melts away, and Taisha asks why he's doing this to his son, and Primus says there's no use in having something if it's not loyal, and he doesn't even know if he can be called son. Lady Aranessa is up. She breaks free from a ghoul and then runs out of the room. A ghoul gets to swing at her, and it actually crits. Abria literally takes the dice that Brennan had rolled in front of them and just throws it away in the room, which is honestly a fucking good call because that dice is murdering people. Literally, poor Octus is dead. Aranessa takes 8 damage and saves from being paralyzed. She yells for the guards. Valus is up and she walks inside the estate and casts Guiding Bolt on Primus. She hits and deals 10 damage, but it's actually 20 damage because Radiant seems to be double damage against Primus. Primus, shocked, asks who she is, and the mist that he is moving with, or that moves sort of behind him, catches fire. Julian is now up, and he is in shock watching people that he knew drop dead, and he is now filled with rage. He charges Primus and dashes to do so. He moves behind Primus so Primus can't move away from him. Julian says that he'll send Primus to Oblivion, where he can't find whatever he worships. Primus turns to him and studies his face. The ghouls upstairs race after Aranessa. Taisha rolls a perception check. I don't know why it says perspective there. And gets a 12. She hears laughing and someone yell at Aranessa to enjoy the hospitality. This is Ethrend. Taisha is now up and she sprints up the stairs towards the voice. She makes it upstairs and see Ethrend and the ghouls. Taisha looks at Ethrend's hand and sees that he's holding a heart. She dashes after Ethrend here, which uses up her entire action again. Primus tells Julian that he admires his resolve and yells for Ethrend and asks if he has it. Ethrend says yes, and Primus starts to walk towards the shadows. Julian gets an attack of opportunity, and he crits, dealing 12 damage. Primus says, "Oblivion, you threatened me with sending me home." Primus then moves towards the shadows and stands in them. Julian wonders if he can kill Primus at all, or if he's something unnatural, but with a high enough roll, he's able to see that Primus is not a god, because if he was, he wouldn't be fleeing, so he can be killed. Moving forward, Julian gets advantage against Primus if he is below half health. Primus steps into the shadow and says, "Ethrend by my side," and looks back at Julian. He says he looks forward to seeing him on the other side. His black ring then glows and he suddenly vanishes, and the ghosts that Velas saw with her divine sense suddenly pop into being around them. Velas has fought these shades in the past. These are the souls who wanted their life back so badly that over time they traded things away that would make everything worth living for. These shades are what remain of those people who traded everything away. They seek to drink what is within Julian, his vitality, and make him join them. Aranessa casts Entangle, getting herself caught up, and some of the ghouls as well, but some of them are still free. Velas is up. She moves up and takes her censer and then whips at one of the shades, but misses. Julian is up. He thinks of Aranessa in this moment and disengages from the shades and runs up the stairs. He uses his second wind as he goes. The ghouls are up. 3 of them take an attack at Aranessa to try to rip her out, and they successfully do rip her out, but they use up their action to do it. And 3 of the ghouls attack Taisha. 2 of them hit, and she takes 6 damage. She's not paralyzed, but she would fall unconscious if it weren't for her relentless endurance, which keeps her up. She has 1 hit point. 2 shades fly after Julian. 4 attack Velas. She takes 4 damage. It would be 8, but they try to drain the life of something that is eternal, so she takes half damage. 2 attack Julian, and they both miss him. Aranessa is up. She attacks a ghoul and hits, dealing 12 damage with some sort of energy burst. Taisha is up. She uses a wild shape to use Land's Aid, putting a 10-foot radius somewhere near her, hitting herself and 3 ghouls. The ghouls take 5 damage if they failed, and then Taisha is able to heal for 7. Taisha then bonus action casts Shillelagh. Velas is up. And she whips at a shade nearby and she misses. Velas feels the cold death of the shade and wonders if that's what she, her goddess, feels now. Julian is up and Velas nods at him. Julian takes off up the stairs and the shades miss as they take an opportunity attack. He dashes up to make sure that he can see everything. He does see Ether and Taconis at the end of the hall. The ghouls attack and hit, dealing damage to Aranessa that Brandon doesn't tell us. 3 attack Taisha, and 1 hits for 5 damage, and she's paralyzed, so she's not unconscious yet. Octus, his family spoke of the realms beyond and the paths that the dead take. He rolls the con save and gets a 22. Velas hears the songs of the nightingale, and Taisha hears it as well. The shadows move, blood drips from underneath Octus's body. Octus thought that that when he died, he would have a much easier time passing through the natural cycle due to his family's connection to death, and that the problems that the world is feeling wouldn't affect him. Ethan then steps forward and reaches Primus Taconis, who was hiding in a shadow nearby, and he has a plane shift ready for them. Primus says to Taisha there's a place where all lost things are kept eternal. He says he will scrub her path from the face of the beyond, and the 2 of them vanish in the shadow. Before they vanish, the heart vanishes that Ethan was holding, and it surrounds itself in wax from his candle. The shades then attack and hit Velas for 3 damage. 2 of them follow Julian, but they can't attack him as they have to dash. Lady Aranessa looks at Octus's body and then readies an action. She says that they've lost so much and the doors are closed. Please, someone help. Velas sees the nightingales fly around the estate. Other shades who are waiting to push through the veil are on the outside, get pushed away by these almost dead fairies, or fairies of the dead, as Brennan puts it. Valus is up. She whips at a shade in front of her, and she misses yet again. This table is what's known as cursed. They need to take it and chop it up and burn it, because they're rolling like dog shit. Julian is up. He runs after Aranessa and leaves both shades behind, but they don't get to hit their attack of opportunity. Julian gets to the door, and Aranessa immediately casts haste on him, which, thank God. She tells him he was charged with the defense of this house. See it done. He feels the power of a realm whose doors are closed to him. His rage falls back, and his sense of honor and duty kick in. He rushes and stabs in at a ghoul, and he hits and deals 10 damage, killing it. He then moves to attack another one. He does, however, see Octus was cut open, gutted like a fish, but he doesn't want to really acknowledge it right now. He stabs the other ghoul for 5 damage, and he uses his bonus action to attack with his gauntlet and hits for 7 more damage. The ghouls then attack. One attacks Julian. Two of them attack Julian, and they both miss. The 3 who are still outside swing for Taisha and hit, and she goes down. Death saves from Taisha as it's her turn, and she rolls a natural 1, which means 2 death fails. This table, game, whatever the hell, dice, cursed. They need to throw these dice away forever. She sees Octus moving further away from her in this place between death. She sees fireflies all around them, moving throughout the path in this trees to a new life. She's close to following Octus herself. She sees that he is very lost. She has a chance to say something to him in this place between life and death. She wants to comfort him, but feels that it's wrong. She feels that it's not his time. She yells for him to go back. Octus hears Taisha's voice that says go back, and he says, yeah, okay, I'll come back. It is too early anyway. He feels pain, something that shouldn't be in this world between, off the path in places beyond the woods, beyond where most of the dead go. A hand clutches a heart and squeezes, calling him a traitor, telling him to come home at once. Wisdom save 11. Taisha watches as Octus steps off the path, and a hand reaches out and grabs his spirit and rips him in two. Or he's beginning to be pulled in two. He is being called in many different directions, and the force of darkness is horrified that something else is calling him. We go back to the combat outside, and the shades attack Valus, dealing 5 damage to her. She's just tanking all of this. She doesn't care. The shades that were following Julian then go back down towards her, so she is now surrounded by 6 of them. Aranessa disengages from the ghouls and heals Taisha for 11 hit points. Taisha sees Octus vanish from her sight as she is now back to the living world. Valus swings and hits for 30 damage with a divine strike, killing one of the 6 goddamn fucking shades. Finally, she hit something, and it killed it instantly, so thank goodness. Julian is up. He swings and stabs, hitting a ghoul for 6 damage, killing that ghoul. He then turns and stabs the other one for 10 damage, vexing it, and then he attacks it again with his gauntlet, killing it with 8 more damage, using his grip to crush the ghoul's skull, just like his dad. I don't know why I said that. He asks if Aranessa is okay, and she says yes, help the druid. Julian then runs out and joins Taisha in the hallway. The ghouls are up and 3 remain. 2 of them attack Julian and they both miss. 1 of them swings for Taisha and they both miss. Octus sees that Taisha is gone. He had heard way too many commands: go back, go home, find a new path. He can feel his father's hand pulling him into the darkness. What does he do? He has a tear in his soul. If he unravels, it'll probably never stop. He starts to sew himself back together with his arcana, and he rolls an arcana check and gets an 18. He stitches himself back up. He is still being pulled. He says no, he's not supposed to go there. He doesn't belong to his father. He belongs with them. Octus is suddenly on a table, but not in the estate. A spectral white face looks down on him. It says something is wrong with the boy. Primus, what have you done? He's then back in the forest. A wing pops out of the stitching he just made, and then suddenly a nose and a fox head with no body pokes out, and Pin looks up at him. Taisha is up, and she casts Thunderwave, hitting all of the ghouls. 2 of them fail and take 13 damage, and are pushed 10 feet away. The other one saves and takes half. And Julian is also hit, and he is thrown 10 feet back. Taisha uses Adrenaline Rush to run to Octus. She dashes her way there, and Adrenaline Rush gives her temp HP as well. She is at the head of Octus, much like she was at the head of Theozi at the funeral. She tells him to get off the path and makes a wisdom save, 22. The shades are now up. and they hit Valus for 2 attacks for 6 damage. So they're not really doing all that much. 6 of them hit. 6 of them went. 2 of them hit. They're not doing much to Valus. She's good. Sorry, 5 of them remain, not 6. Arnessa is up. They can all hear the sounds of other Taconas killing other people in the estate. The estate's bigger than just these 2 rooms. Arnessa breaks her desk, and suddenly Druid crafts a sapling and yells for Julian. Valus is up, and she misses her attack again. Julian is up. He charges and attacks, critting a ghoul for 10 damage, killing it. He rushes the other ghoul, killing it with his bonus action, and then he attacks the last one and misses it. So there's still 1 ghoul remains. He then runs back towards Arnessa. He takes 4 damage as he moves away from the last ghoul. The ghoul then runs after Julian, dashing to get to Julian and Arnessa. Octus rolls an Arcana check and gets a 19. He looks at Pin. Something is stuck within inside of him. Pin looks up at him and he is covered in blood. Octus reaches it up inside of himself to pull whatever is in him out. Medicine check 15. There's something still within him. He reaches for it and he touches a stone where his heart should be, and he pulls it out. The white face looks down at him and yells no, and Octus begins to fall apart, and Alex leaves the table. Taisha is up and she can see that Octus is cold and dead. She then casts Speak with Plants with her staff, and she tells the entangle vines that are still there and the metal to grow. She uses her staff to be able to talk to metal. Apparently that's a Loy thing. It grows to make the room more difficult terrain. Arnessa tells her to bring Octus over to them, and she does so without issue. Arnessa tells Taisha to ask the plant where there's the least of them, so the least Taconuses, which Taisha does, and Taisha hears an old oak tree say that the bridge across the river knows no touch of death, and he welcomes the wielder of the old ways. Taisha tells Arnessa the information, and the Shades attack Valus for 6 damage once again. She's still fine, apparently, which is crazy. I don't know exactly how much damage she's taken, but hey, whatever. Arnessa then casts Tree Stride. Herself, Julian, and Taisha appear in the courtyard. Julian yells the elf inside, and Arnessa starts to run. Arnessa tells Valus the veil is weaker over beyond the bridge, and she turns and runs because she doesn't really have anything else to do to help. Valus is up. She disengages and runs out of the estate towards the gates. Julian is up. He steps into the doorway and says he'll hold them off, and he holds his action to strike any that come near. He sees his father's dead body in the corner, and his stoicism slips a little bit. Taisha is up, and she dashes after Arnessa, but she tells Julian to run with them, and she heals him for 20 HP before she runs off. The Shades then move up, and Julian takes his first attack. He only gets 1 because he held his action, and he hits for 7 damage. He thinks about how his father will not get to know him for anything other than what he was at the time, a drunk. Raymond wouldn't know how he died. It would have been too quick. The faces of the Shades are now no longer filled with fear like they were with Valus because they were something different. They now are filled with grins as they are ready to take his soul and make them one of them. They get ready to embrace Julian. Arnessa yells for Julian to run. The lights of the estate start to go out. Valus is up and she can see the veil. She knows that the Shades won't be able to follow through it. She then moves back towards Julian. He tells her to leave and to keep them safe, and he'll join them soon. But she ignores him and takes her whip and goes for a shade, hitting one of them, dealing 24 damage with Divine Smite. Julian yells to go. He'll tank them for now. She did a good job of it before. Julian is up. He hits for 11 damage on one of the Shades. He then hits for another 10, and then he hits for another 10. At this moment, 4 Shades remain. Taisha is up, and she yells to run, and then Misty steps towards Arnessa. The Shades then hit Julian for 8 damage and sap 2 of his strength away. Valus is up. She says that she'll stay until they finish this, but it won't make him feel any better. She and Julian are close to each other in initiative rolls, so they're allowed to move together. Julian goes to take his father's gauntlet without looking at his face. He doesn't want to remember what he looks like now, but what he was before. He takes the gauntlet off without any issues, and the 2 of them run towards Arnessa across the bridge. The cries of the living fade as they run to the cackling of the dead. The group move to an uncertain future. Ashley, Matt, and Abria leave the table. Marisha, Louise, Liam, and Talzin join the table. We are at Hal's house, and it's just Hal and Murray right now. Hal has a letter for Murray. It says Belair on it, but it was for Murray apparently. Murray opens it, and Hal says Thiazi told him to help Murray, and maybe the letter will explain how. Murray opens it and reads it to herself. As she reads it, Sadia comes in the house and says goodbye to some people she was practicing her juggling with. Sadia wants to put on a show somewhere in town to grow awareness for the Hollowed Round. Hal agrees as the place has a reputation and people need to know that it's changed. Sadia says that they've got the new paint and she thinks that they need to start making murals of old stories and old historical figures. Sadia gives Hal a list of characters and stories they should use, like the ones that weren't allowed under the old gods. Hal listens to her great ideas and lets her just run through them. He says that it's all an excellent idea and wants her to pick her favorite ones. Murray tells Hal they need to have a little chat about what's in the letter, and Hal tells Sadia that they'll go over her idea tomorrow, but says that they should start from the outside and then move in towards the center of the whole theater. Sadia runs off and Hal turns to Murray and his smile fades. Murray says that the letter was for her, but it talks about Belair. She says that it opens with he, being Thiazi, is either dead or he had to skip town because his tab grew a little bit too big and it was time to be called on. She says that Thiazi was rooting for her and they know that there are people working against the city and the school. He says they need allies and Belair is an ally but not a friend. They've had success working together in the past. Thiazi says that Belair should be in the museum himself, and if they took the mask off, he suspects that she'd have him well in hand. Murray thinks whoever betrayed them was doing it for a long time and maybe swap the names around because this is about Belair but addressed to Murray. So things are a little weird with that. Hal notes that his brother kept him in the dark about a lot of things. Murray wonders if the letter is magic, and she rolls an Arcana check to make sure. She gets a 14. It doesn't seem to be magic. The letter was addressed to Belair, unless there are many letters with dirt on people, and it was more for filing. It seems that this was his way of keeping track of the letters on and who they were about. Murray fills Hal in on this, and she wonders if Thiazi has a file on her. Hal asks what the connection between Thiazi and Murray is. Murray says that she has uses for rare artifacts and magical supplies. Sometimes magic is hard to come by. It's a dirty business. It's not easy to get. She hates how hard it is to get. She believes it should be more accessible to people. But you need to get dirty sometimes, which is where Thiazi came in. Murray says that her and Belair have similar needs and uses for Thiazi. Sometimes they fought over things from him. Hal asks if anyone else knew about their dealings with the three of them. And Murray thinks that there was a well-kept secret, but it's a sort of honor among thieves. Hal thinks they need to talk to Belair. Murray asks if Hal is sure about that he wants to get involved, because getting involved would destroy a lot of the work that Thiazi put into protecting Hal and his family. Hal believes that he doesn't have much of a choice anymore. Chaos has entered his home at this point. Murray sees the liar's blade on his back. Murray is a diviner wizard, subclass revealed, and she rolled her portent rolls, which are 2 rolls that she can sort of roll at the beginning of a long rest, or at the end of a long rest, and then hold on to and replace that d20 roll with whatever she wants. So she got a 2 and a natural 20. She can replace any d20 with these rolls. Murray looks at the house and she can feel the hum of the world, the hum of magic. She knows that time isn't a concept, it's science. She knows her abilities somehow touch the cosmic DNA of the world and feels that they are on the right path. We then go over to the Falcon's Rest, where we see that Azune has been watching the soldiers run off on their horses. Azune finishes listing off the names of those who fell in the Falcon's Rebellion. As the soldiers leave, Azune adds another name, Thiazi Fang. Azune thinks about adding the names of those who he just watched leave, but he doesn't. They didn't die, they've just left. He then turns and thinks about what he's learned from his friends in the past, how to fight, how to take a hit. He remembers something that Thimble told him, but he pushed it away long ago. How was she able to let go of the past? He doesn't remember her answer, he just knows that she could let go of things. Natural 1 on insight check. He doesn't know the difference between letting go and forgetting. Forgetting is death. While it's remembered, it's still here. He remembers the names and will stay in pain to honor them. He then wishes he had more time with those who had just left, but knows that they had to leave. He chooses to list off their names, to remember everything that they've done, and to remember their story. Teor, Thimble, Wick, Tyranny, and Cadigan. Azune wonders if they will forget him while they are gone. There's a strength in remembering, and Azune turns back and goes towards Hal's place. As he goes to open the door to Hal's place, Murray opens the door. She's very excited, and Hal is going with them, and they head off toward the Arcanod. Meanwhile, at the Arcanod, Belair has cleaned up his mess from his recent activities, and he believes that it's been hidden well. He needs to find Thimble. Belair can feel things are coming to a head, and feels that talking to Thimble will help him maintain control. He thinks about where he'd find her. He rolls an investigation check and gets a 13. He spends the evening reaching out to people, sort of looking around town for her, but nothing comes up. Murray, Hal, and Azune come to a locked door at the back loading bay of the Arcanod. Murray sends a message with her spell towards Belair. Belair gets the message and asks what she needs. Murray says that they're going hunting and it's bastard season. No, it's prick season. Bastard season. Fire. Sorry. Brennan makes that joke in the cooldown. That's my bad. Belair goes to the back door and opens it and invites them all inside. Hal says they need to talk, and Belair says that he'll get the wine and asks for where Thimble is, and the others tell him that she's gone. Belair is confused and pissed about this. Murray asks why he's mad, and he says that he had an agreement. Azune says that she ran out of time. Murray says that they just lost someone, so status quo is sort of out the window. Belair says he's well aware and is very upset about where it leaves them all. He then takes them down into the archives. Insight check from Murray, Hal, and Azune. 4 from Murray, 23 from Hal, and 18 from Azune. Azune can tell that Belair is breaking some rules here. He's allowed back down here, but Hal and Murray aren't. They shouldn't be here. Hal can tell that Belair is somewhat of a mess. He seems more energetic than normal, and he's walking like he's drunk almost. Hal can also see that Belair's skin, what little he can see, is much healthier than it normally is. It's not as gray. Hal drops back and tells Azune to trust him, meaning Hal, and to stay on guard. Belair stops and says that he needs them all to trust him, and he doesn't know any other way to do it. He then opens up his secret archive. It's a round staircase that goes down 2 floors. A winding stone staircase with bookshelves lining it. At the bottom is a desk, papers, tools to study magical objects, and there's a vault door. They get to the bottom and he opens up the other vault door, and there is a room 3 times the size of the one that they're currently in. You could easily fit a family of 4 in this second vault room, and it's filled with insane objects in it. Murray is like a kid in a candy store seeing all these magical items, and Azune is very stressed that Belair has something like this inside the city. Murray feels the magic in here, and she rolls Arcana check, and she gets a 27. She can rub her hand across it and feels the magical energy. She takes her hand over a 30-foot-long stone sculpture that would have been a total nightmare to get in here. And on the hand seems to be like a raised rune of some sort that's like a tattoo. It's in giant writing. She sees the stone hand is a giant's hand. It's been turned to stone. Hal casts Comprehend Language and then reads the giant's tattoo out loud. The tattoo says, "Where we have stood since the dawn of time, no one else will shape against." Unfortunately, it's cut off there. Belair warns them to be careful about what they read out loud. Murray goes to take the hand, or to shake its finger, and Belair casts Command and says no, which Murray beats the DC. Murray grabs the finger and nothing happens. They all calm down and they start to talk about what they need to talk about. They inform Azune about what they learned with the letter. Hal says that they'll hash it all out here. They tell Belair that Thiazi had warnings about Belair. Hal asks Belair why Thiazi would warn Murray about him. Belair wanted to talk to Thimble. Hal then rolls an insight check to see if Belair is coming up with any lies right now. Natural 20 from Belair and not 1 from Hal. Belair says a week after he met Thiazi for the first time in Hal's house, Thimble showed up with a letter. Thiazi knew things about Belair that would make Belair's life a lot harder, so he was forced to work for Thiazi. He was forced to start stealing things from the library for Thiazi and others, and if he told Hal that this was happening, Thiazi would end Belair. Belair says any lie he told to Hal was because of Thiazi. He wanted this to be his chance to sort of be free from all of this so he can clean up the mess that Thiazi made. Thiazi has compromised every level of Belair's life and has treated him very poorly, and it has sort of broken Belair's heart. Belair says Thiazi was a complicated person, but he was very cruel and unkind to Belair, and he doesn't feel that he deserved it. His sins pale in comparison to Thiazi's sins. He'd hoped to have talked to Thimble, as she had said to Belair many times, that he gives her gifts, and then Thimble would make sure that Belair never came into contact with a prick, like a Thimble is supposed to. Belair says there is a shadow and something is wrong in this world. He needs them to trust him, and that's why they're all here. Hal says that they can all feel the daggers in the city right now. Hal says that he wants to trust him and asks for what Thiazi held over his head. Belair says that he fought in the Shapers' War. He helped murder a god and he saw it with his own eyes. He says that he was created during the war and woke up 2 days before the death of the god Rowan, the trickster goddess. He was made to destroy her. Arcana checks from the group. Hal rolls a 19. Hal knows that there were many weapons made to kill the gods during the Shaper War. The orcs obviously made the sword to kill the god of war. Humans made staves for better magical items, or for better magic to kill the god of the sun. The elves made a single arrow, known as the last arrow, to kill their god. Belair named the god of the halflings, which he had never heard of their weapon before. Murray notes Belair belongs in a museum. Azune walks up to Belair and asks if he's alive, and Belair says yes. Azune asks if he's a machine, and Belair says that he's a part, a character. He's a series of masks to perform a play. That play was specifically to kill the gods. The mask can wear anyone. Hal asks to stop speaking in riddles. Belair says that he is the mask itself. He needs the rest of him, but he is stuck within the mask. Hal rolls a perception check and gets a 12. He doesn't see anything weird. Azune feels the mask to see if it feels like skin. Belair then takes his hair off, and they can see a chip in his ear, the same chip as Abris Dime. Abris became Belair, and then Belair chopped up his old fucking body. I think that is the coolest character of all time. That is so cool. Hal wants Belair to speak plainly and true and asks what he is. And Belair said he is an object to kill the god. He is a mask that wears people. When he's not worn, he sleeps. And after the god died, he slept until the next war, where he was used again. Rinse and repeat until the Falconers' Rebellion, where he had his own thought for the first time. And he thought that his play was long over. He was now waiting and knew there must be something more, so he ran away. Eventually, he found his way here, and he knew things. He knew these things, and he was good at it. Then he saw one of Hal's plays at the theater and became something more. Everything Hal writes changed everything. Knowing Hal made him a bigger person and was able and more capable of wanting more. Hal is Belair's only friend, and he was going to tell him, but Thiazi poisoned everything. Thiazi ruined everything. Belair says that he'll do anything to make this better, as Hal and his family are so important to him. Murray asks why Thiazi hated Belair, and Belair says that he wasn't hated, he was an object to Thiazi, and he was very useful. Hal asks how Thiazi found out, and Belair says he doesn't know. He was used during the rebellion for small missions, so someone must have known something. He does have brothers and sisters, but they weren't found, at least not yet. Hal recalls a black mask within the coffin. Hal knows that his brother had a juvenile sense of humor, and he loved to hide truths in a euphemism. Not euthanism. Murray thinks about the letter. If you took the mask off, I suspect you'd have him well in hand. This was true. Hal drinks his wine in one go. Someone above calls for Belair. Azune scans the mask quickly for any nicks in it and casts mending in the mask. They can hear someone walking towards the archives. Belair runs up and sees a museum benefactor, Tamode Wernst, with someone that Belair has never seen before. Perception check of 7. Tamode is with a woman. Tamode introduces the woman. She is a middle-aged woman wearing white robes. She is Lady Amiria Cormoray. She says that it's a pleasure to meet Belair, and she wants to ask questions about the artifacts in the Loy Wing. They are here to review the Pariah Blades. Blair asks to reschedule as he's a little busy. Cormorant says that it's understandable and that asks if she can come back tomorrow. Blair says yes, he'll give her the tour, and she likes that idea and asks how long he's been working there. Blair says 8 years, and she offers him a ride home. He says that he's actually putting things away right now. She says that's okay, she'll be a fly on the wall. She actually wanted to see the archive work more than the regular exhibits. As he looks at her, Temide says that that's odd and looks down the river outside the window and sees the Davanos estate down the way. And the lights are out, and it's a strange dark smudge on the river with all the other lights on from the other houses. Blair thinks that that's very bad. Lady Cormorant sees this and says that it's very strange, but doesn't seem to care that much. Blair says that he's got an emergency and needs them to leave, and he rolls an insight check and gets an 11. Lady Cormorant says that she didn't mean to disturb, and she and Temide walk back up, and that she'll be back tomorrow. Blair then runs down and tells the others that something is wrong, and he shows them the estate. They all know that Octus is in danger, which means the others are likely in danger as well. Hal casts aid and gives the other 3 temporary hit points, 5 temporary hit points, and 5 extra max hit points. Azune casts false life on himself. Murray says they need to go. About 20 minutes later, they make it to the Davanos estate. Murray sends a message to Taisha, which gets no response. The group ready themselves on their way there. Azune casts Detect Magic. They roll Arcana checks. Azune uses luck and still gets a 12, which means I think that's the first time we've seen Azune use luck. Murray gets a 19, Blair gets a 1, and Hal gets an 8. They see the gates are open. The garden is beautiful, and they walk inside, and the place is empty. No bodies, no blood, no nothing. Murray knows there should be some people here. At the very least, there should be staff. She can see something in the center of the Great Hall. All of the lights are off. Blair walks in, and Azune goes in with him. He gets what Murray saw, and it was a melted bit of black wax. She knows that this is for powerful necromancy. This was used to shred the plane between Death and Ahriman. Blair wonders if mending it will work, but Murray says what it is, and she's a little concerned by it. Hal moves in and tries to listen. He rolls a perception check and gets a natural 20. Azune can't feel any magic in the area right now. Murray says whatever happened here takes more than candles to do. Hal moves back towards the group. Azune casts Mending on the wax. Hal hears Azune cast the spell, and with the lasting effects of Comprehend Languages, I guess we can do that now, he understands Azune says the word remember and tells the candle to remember what it used to be, and it forms itself back into a candle. Tells the wax what it used to be. Hal hears the footsteps of a fox run out of the door with his natural 20 perception, and they know that they need to follow it to follow the people that they're looking for. They race into the streets running towards the Loy estate. Matt, Abria, and Ashley join the table at this moment. They reach the Loy estate in the Minzash neighborhood. The Loys have been there forever, a house of heroes, not nobles, the house who forged the sword to kill the god. The Loy estate is a large single-level home built into the side of a hill with very vibrant, reddy trees. There's many places to meditate and sit on a bunch of boulders around here. Many of the Loys have left to go, I believe it was east. There's an old orcish man here with a lantern holding it up. Aranessa, Julian, Valus stand near Taisha as she's pumping cure wounds into Octus this whole time. Octus's body has no vitality left, and his body has been mended with the exception of the massive wound in his chest. The ghoul wounds are gone, but his body is lifeless. Julian is keeping watch, and he's using it to not sort of focus on the body that's behind him. Valus is deeply watching Taisha. Aranessa asks if she knows what they did to Octus, and Taisha says that she wasn't thinking about it, so she casts Detect Magic. Aranessa explains what they did to Octus, telling Taisha that Ethryn had some sort of carved object with wings, and she tells them that Ethryn was Octus's brother. She says that the Taconuses were silent for so long. Taisha saw Ethryn with a heart in his hand. She finishes the ritual casting, and she can feel a divine sense of necromancy within Octus. Taisha pushes, or sort of backs away from him. She says that he put something inside of him. Blair asks what that means as they sort of enter the scene. Hal sees Octus on the ground and gets a flash and sees Algar, his son, and then suddenly it flashes back to Octus. He then immediately hugs Taisha as she cries. Murray asks if it was Primus, and Taisha says yes, he killed Julian's father as well. Belair looks and sees the shadow on Julian. Belair tells Julian there's something attached to him, and they'll need to deal with it soon. Belair then goes to the body and says that he's gonna go looking for whatever is inside of him. Murray says they need to remember the last time they touched something divine. She then casts Mage Hand. Belair makes a glass scalpel appear in the Mage Hand as well, and they go to roll a medicine check together. Hal gives Bardic Inspiration, and Taisha gives Guidance. The DC is 30. And Murray says, fuck that, and uses her natural 20 portent that she had stored up already. Standing in the garden of the Loy family where the smith told his family that he can make weapons of war, why can't he make something to protect his family and make them free? Azune hears the words remember over and over again in his mind. They watch the Mage Hand every time this happens. It's supposed to go wrong, except for this time it goes right. They all know they need to get this right. They reach in, and where a heart should be is a stone of the night song. Everyone hears the song of the nightingale. The stone is pulled out and floats in the hand. This moment is supposed to happen. It is the first moment that they need to save the city. Several magical mistakes were prevented and mended without them even knowing they were broken. Belair and Murray look at each other and they realize that they are very different people, but they did this in the same place where a sword to kill the gods were made. Belair laughs. Murray traces a grid with her finger over the floating stone currently. They hear a gasp from Octus himself, and Alex joins the table. Octus asks what happened, and Taisha tackles him. Octus's innards are out of his stomach currently, and they begin to move, and Pin jumps out. Hal says that they actually followed Pin here. Murray knows this was the first time she was able to use her portent for a natural 20. She knows that some moments are so important that they can actually send ripples back up the stream. She can sense these events even before they happen. The blood of Octus begins to drip off the stone of the night song and then back into his body. It turns into a ribbon and stitches him closed, much like he stitched himself back together in the other realm. Octus remembers the night song's words: celestials, black wings, white wings, carriages with gleaming white liquid as blood leaving the city, endless night, storms, carriages of the Royce family and the Taconis is moving. The face of his grandfather, he believes. The armies march in the dead. There seems to be a war waging in the underworld. His family is the one waging it. He saw a orcish warrior standing again against the dead army, the symbol of the Barrow Guard. His soul is unraveled, but his body is still kicking. The party saw something impossible unfold. Vela sees that the stone stolen by Thiazi just brought someone back to life. Velas goes down to Octus and she places her hand on his heart. She wants to see if there's some sort of connection to her god. Religion check 14. She pours her lay on hands into him. Octus feels cold. He's breathing to try to catch his breath, but he never does catch his breath. He doesn't have to breathe. Velas doesn't feel any warmth from him or from her god. She sees the stone, the thing that she came here for. She could take it and leave and go back home, but she looks at Octus. She's been alive for 800 years. She knows the life that awaits for her if she goes back home, prayer to a god that won't answer. She just saw something that no one has ever seen before. She calls him remarkable. She doesn't feel a heartbeat. Julian actually raises his blade to Octus and asks for what he knows. Taisha steps between them, as does Belair. Julian says that they trust him so quickly. His family have always been nightmares. This is nothing new from them. Murray casts hold person on Julian, but he saves. Octus says that he's sorry about everything, but he doesn't know what they're doing. He wasn't with the family for years. He's actually been helping Thiazi. Julian asks if he saw them cross the veil, or if he saw them across the veil, meaning his family. Julian asks if Octus is the bait to gain more trust and then put them all deeper into the meat shredder that killed everything that's ever mattered to him. Taisha tries to hug Julian, but he puts his blade into her chest. Arnessa separates the two of them. She says that the House Devinos and the House Royce have fallen. Their allies have turned on them, and the city is no longer safe, but they still have their strengths. There is a fight waiting for them. The shadows surround them all, and the doors to Fairy are closed. Step by step, they are being weakened. Their kindness was seen as weakness, but no one counted on what happened here today. They will find answers, and she slams her fist onto a boulder, and leaves fall from the trees. She asks Octus to tell them what he saw on the other side of this world, and the world depends on it. And the session ends here. So there you have it. Episode 4 of Campaign 4 is now in the books. I think, personally, this is one of the greatest opening episodes to a campaign of all time. Now, realistically, nothing's going to beat the first couple of episodes of the Mighty Nine, but by God is this close. This was so good. This might be like one of the single best episodes in a long time for Critical Role. And I loved Campaign 3, but this was fantastic. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. The combat was insane. Everything we learned about Belair was insane. Just everything about this episode was wild and madness and just so much fun. Belair is one of the coolest character concepts to me. It feels like Dr. Fate meets the Mask with how like crazy it is, right? Dr. Fate isn't like, I don't want to say Dr. Fate isn't super wacky because I don't know too many like comics of him or anything like that. But every interpretation that I've seen from him, he's like super straight, like super like there's no nonsense, right? He's a straight character. And then the Mask is a super like, wacky and violent and insane character. So to me, Belair is like the combination of both things, right? Where the Mask sort of gives people powers, and I'm assuming that's where his like warlock abilities come from. And then like the idea of Dr. Fate, the Mask taking over someone else, is really cool as well. So I just like the idea. It's sort of like the Mask meets Dr. Fate. And like Taliesin said that, and I'm going to talk about this in a video because I have to, because it's such a cool idea. But Taliesin said that the idea of it sort of came from Travis picking up all of the animated objects over the years, like all the swords that come to life. And he goes, so what happens when those get abandoned? And that's what Belair is. And I love that idea. I think it's so cool. But then on top of it, we also get to learn that Thiazi was a mild piece of shit. And I don't want to even say mild. He seems like a piece of shit, right? It's crazy how the perception of Thiazi was this great warrior of rebellion. And now, after one session, I'm sitting here like, this guy seems like kind of an asshole, right? Like, it's so crazy how everyone has a different perception of him, right? Like, most people see him as like this Robin Hood type character who's like a guy fighting for the rebellion. And then you have Julian, who sees this guy as like an obstacle in his way and someone who sort of like puts his family in a bad spot because of their relationship to him and the Sundered Houses and how he sort of stands against them. And then there are some people like Valus who's like, this guy's just a fucking criminal and he stole my shit and I want it back. But then there's Belair, who's like Thiazi's victim in a way, right? So like this is a crazy character. Thiazi might be one of the most complex characters in Critical Role history because of like the layers of like people looking at him in different ways. Hal sees him as his like golden boy brother who has a little bit of a checkered past, but he's seen as mostly a hero. And then like Valus sees him as a criminal. Julian sees him as like a criminal and an obstacle in his way. Belair's like, fuck this guy. He's such an asshole. I think this is awesome. And that combat, oh God. And it's going to come up because, of course it's going to come up, where people are going to be like, it's all scripted, blah, blah, blah. Yes, to a certain degree, early D&D can be scripted between a DM and a player. Now, does that mean they wrote every beat out beat for beat? Abso-fucking-lutely not. The idea of Octus's character, according to both Brennan and Alex at the wrap-up, or the cooldown episode, was he wanted to play a hollow one, and then Brennan asked if he'd be okay with doing that transition from human to hollow one on the show. Alex didn't know when it was going to happen, and according to him, he was totally 100% okay with the idea that he might end up playing a human. So I just love this idea that, the idea is scripted and that it's going to come up eventually. And what this overture, these 4 episodes, were specifically like designed to split the groups off into their groups. They've known which group they're going to be in the entire time. They're just waiting to see how they get there. It's sort of like we're in a flashback. That sort of deal. Like, the players know where they're going to end up. We need to see how they get there. That's what these episodes were. And they were really fun and really exciting. Now, something to sort of bring up, I wonder if, because there was a lot of information in here. My question is, because I've had a couple of friends who have tried to convince to watch this campaign because it's newer and it's like not related to the old stuff, so they don't need it. And they've already quit. They've already quit watching because it was a lot of information to take in. It was a lot of slow paced for a little bit of it. There's a lot of characters to figure out. My question is, do we think these episodes are almost not skippable, but like they're not necessary either, right? Because we obviously learn a lot about these characters, but something tells me we're going to go through some sort of like soft reset with the story as we move forward. And we're going to be able to just pick up on pieces if you didn't watch the original 4 episodes. So I'm curious if that's going to happen or not, because I would like people who, say like 13 people is too much, there's a lot going on, to start watching at episode 5 and see 5 characters and only see 5 characters. So I'm curious if that's anything that's important to really think about. But with that all being said, I think that's everything I have to really say. I am excited moving forward because episode 5 is going to be the soldiers table. It's a little disappointing that the soldiers weren't in this episode at all, but it makes sense. Also, I just want to say one more thing about the Belair thing, because that was so awesome. When we saw the cold opening with Belair and he was in that weird place, I questioned how long ago that was. I was like, so what is this? When did this happen, and what happened to Obelisk? Like, what the fuck? What happened here? When was this? To learn that it was something that was super recent was kind of crazy. And another thing to point out is, with him doing this, right? With him doing these, like, pretend, like, exchanges, and he takes money from people, and then he kills them and takes their bodies. He claims to be some sort of victim to Theosy. My question is, how much of that is actually true, right? Because while he is some sort of victim, he would also benefit from, like, Theosy sending him a sucker every once in a while, right? So I'm curious if it's as bad as Belair's making it out to be, or if he's exaggerating to save his own ass. Something that I'm looking forward to. Also, I think my prediction is going to be wrong for the tables, and I think I'm off by 1. I think Belair and Murray are going to be on the same team. And I think Hal is going to be on the same team as Tysha and Octus. There's just something there that makes me think that that's going to be the team. So now my prediction is Valus, Octus, Tysha, and Hal. And then the other table is going to be Julian, Belair, Murray, and Azune. Which team is going to be which, I'm not too sure anymore. Because, I thought that, like, Hal would want to be involved with, like, the schemer stuff, and that maybe Octus wouldn't want to be involved with all the schemer stuff, and you'd think that Belair and Murray would want to go after some of the magical stuff, but they could also easily want to go after some of the people who have been, like, fucking them over for years. So realistically, I think any of these teams, any composition of these teams could be a seeker or could be a schemer. So it's kind of interesting that we didn't get the answer yet. So we're going to have to wait till the end of the soldiers storyline before we see what happens with this. So we're going to be a while. But anyway, I think that's all I have to say about this episode. It's fantastic. It's awesome. The fucking combo was so sick. And yeah, I think that's it. If there's anything else that comes up in my head, it'll likely get turned into a video. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I will see you guys on Tuesday for whatever video I make next. And until then, peace. And is it Thursday yet? And lastly, I just want to thank the members of the channel. We have 2 members in the bandit level, which is Tom Koch and Eric Cunningham. Hopefully I said your names right. And in the rogue tier, we have Trent Lee's Tabletop. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. And if anyone else wants a special shout out at the end, just like these 3, become a member today.